You with the Golut and how we can transform it into the Geula, the exile, how it can be transformed into redemption. So we'll turn again to the key verse we referred to already in chapter 27 of Bereshit, with the blessing that Yitzchak gave to Yaakov, thinking it was Esau. And we're going to explain the way in which Rav Dessler develops this concept in verse 27 of chapter 27 of Genesis, where it says that Yitzchak asked his son, he thought it was Esau, "Come and kiss me, my son." So he came near and he kissed him. And then he smelt the pleasant odor of his garments, and he blessed him, and he said, "Re'eh," even said, "See, re'ach bani, this fragrance of my son, like the fragrance of the field which God has blessed. Therefore that God give you the dew of heaven and the fatness of the earth. Nations will serve you, and states will bow down to you. Become a master over your brothers. Those who curse you will be cursed, and those who bless you will be blessed." A similar phrase which was used by Hashem to Avram Avinu, that all those who curse you will be cursed amongst the nations of the world, and all those who will bless you will be blessed, and through you will bless all the families of the earth. This was the blessing Yitzchak gave to whom? To Yaakov, thinking it was Esau. So what lies behind this? Say to say, can you give me one of the sheets, please? One of the sheets. Does it say to say like this? What does it mean? Et reach begadav, the garment. The word begad is connected with the Hebrew root boged, the traitor. Because garments frequently camouflage the true body of the person. The person wears garments in order that people should not see the more unpleasant part of his body. And also if he's got different scabs on his body, garments can cover it over. So this famous international saying, Kleider machen Leute, means the garments create the man. To some extent they create the man, and in other ways they hide the man. So this is part of the essence of a garment. So the sages say, in this case, certainly the garments were actually the garments which the sages say belonged to Adam Arishon. When he came out from Gan Eden, he had certain garments with special significance. And then, through various changes of the garments being robbed, they ended up with Esau. The Esau had these garments, considered garments of Hamudot, these special garments which had upon them the odor of Gan Eden, because that's where they came from originally. And in the case of Esau, that's the truth, that the garments, they were really garments from Gan Eden, but they hid the essence of the human soul, was hidden as a result. was no longer revealed openly, as it was in Gan Eden. Gan Eden, the soul, was shining through the body. Then when Adam HaRishon sinned, the garments represented a remnant of how the Gan Eden could have expressed a beautiful fragrance, but in fact did not do so anymore. It became hidden. So the sages say, they give an example, what is the significance of this? So they say, it refers to the traitors, to the people of Israel, because who was wearing the garments? Yaakov. And Yaakov was an Ishtam Yoshevu Alim. Yaakov represents the future people of Israel who are dedicated to serve Hashem and become a model for all human beings of saintliness. And here he was wearing the garments of Esav, which Esav had used when he went hunting in the fields. So therefore, when a descendant of Yaakov wears these garments, as is hinted at in this passage, it refers to those Jews who adopt the garment of Esav. Jews who become traitors, because Esav, it turns out that the inner essence, as we already described, was materialism, and unfortunately used the materialism throughout his life as the ultimate aim and ambition, whilst the true soul, which lay deeply inside him, almost disappeared, was not known in his activities, and therefore he lived by the sword, and as he has done until today, living by the sword. Or today the sword is replaced with nuclear weapons. That is the power of Esau. Oh, it's to gain control of mankind, especially when he starts combining his efforts with Yishmael. So the sages say, in the usual fashion, which also exists in the whole of the Bible, and followed also by the sages, they give illustrations. They give illustrations of two traitors to the people of Israel, the Bogdim. But these Bogdim, amongst the Jewish people, even in a moment of their life, it's true, they wore these garments, but they were traitors, but they changed. And they dedicated themselves to the people of Israel. One of these was Yosef Meshita. That's how he was called. So this happened, the Midrash says, when the enemies of the people of Israel wanted to go into the Temple Mount, when the temple was still there, they said, let one of the Jews go in first. Because they were afraid. They were afraid if they go into the temple and take away the holy vessels, that they might be killed. Because they knew if even the Kohen Gadol went right inside, some didn't come out alive. This was a time when they said, okay, there was a person who sided with the enemy. And it's likely this was at the time before the burning up of the temple by the Romans. So Yosef was somebody who had left Judaism, the Jewish people, and was helping the Romans in their persecution of the Jews. And the Romans wanted to take out the golden menorah. So he went into the Beit HaMikdash and took out the glorious golden menorah which he found there. And he thought, I brought it out, can I have it? I mean, he was he was a person who reached quite a high stage in the Roman persecuting army, because he helped them a lot. He was like a person who knew the Jewish customs. He'd been raised Jewish, but he left it all. Became part of the Roman persecutors, or they fought for them. So he thought, maybe, if even they said to him, they said, you go inside, and whatever you find inside will be yours. It will belong to you. Yeah? You can be you've helped us to go and rob the Jews and persecute them. So whatever you find there will be your own. So when he brought out the menorah, they said, no, this is too beautiful. We'll have to leave this for somebody who's really high up. Maybe the emperor himself will be pleased to have it. It was worth a lot of money also. I think the one that they put up to remind us of it on the way to the Kotel, I think cost a few $1 million of pure gold. So, ain't darkness in yet. An ordinary person will not use this. Okay, he said, I'm not going in again. I'm not going in again. Why should I go in? They said, okay, if you go in again, you'll find something of lesser value which will be yours. The gold menorah not. But you'll find something there worth, well, it's still worth something, you can have that. He refused utterly to go in. So he said, no. He said, I'm sorry that you're quite right. It's not the way of an ordinary person to use this menorah. So he thought about himself. It's not really right what I'm doing. He felt guilty. And he refused to go in again. They said, okay. At that time there's also taxation on everybody. They said, you won't have to pay any taxes for 3 years. He said, if you go in again. He refused. And what did he say to them? He said, I have angered my God once by going in. I should go and anger him again? I'm not going in again under any circumstances. He said, what's happened to you? How can you talk like that? You're going back to be faithful to your God when we're trying to destroy him. Therefore they said, you'll have to be tortured. They started torturing him, but he refused to listen, refused to go in. He said, I'm not angering my God again. I'm going back to my God. So, whilst they were torturing, almost to death, so he cried out, Why, oy why, oh why, that I have brought anger to my Creator. He wasn't crying because of the pain, he was crying because of all the bad things he'd done against Hashem and against the people of Israel. What happened? So they tortured him, and the sages say that his soul went up to heaven, straight up to heaven, the highest level, when he did teshuvah. That's one case. Now there's another case mentioned of a person who was also a traitor to the people. And this one's called Yakum Ish Tzerurot. And he was in the time of the Zukkot, that means the time of the Maccabeans. He was a nephew of Rabbi Yosef ben Yoezer Ish Tzeredo. Mentioned in the first chapter, Pirkei Avot. His uncle was the head of the Sanhedrin. His uncle was the Gadol Ador, the greatest scholar of his time, who lived in the time of the religious persecutions of Antiochus, the wicked king. who persecuted people of Israel at the time of the Maccabees. And so many were killed. And they also, in the religious persecution, they arrested the head of the Sanhedrin of Yosef ben Yoezer, and they decided to crucify him on Shabbat. They put him also on the gallows, and were going to kill him on the Shabbat, the Romans. Now his nephew, he became a Hellenist. He joined the Hellenists. He followed Antiochus. He gave up Judaism and went and helped the armies of Antiochus in their religious persecution and torture of the people who remained faithful. So he happened to be present when he saw his uncle. In fact, he wanted to see what they're doing, as at that time he belonged to them. He was not just a Hellenist himself, but he tried to bring as many Jews as possible to give up their faith and join the Hellenistic idolatry of the time and follow Antiochus. So he was riding on a nice horse. You know, he was a cavalier from the armed members of the guards of Antiochus, riding on a horse. He was going to see the way in which they were going to hang and torture his uncle. So this person, Yakum, he was called. Yakum would get up. Yakum said to his uncle, "You have a look at the fine horse I've got, which I'm riding on. And now you can see my master's Antiochus, and he gave him this beautiful horse. That's me. But what about you? You're going to be hung on the gallows that they hang you on. And your God has brought you to this level because you believe in your God. So what's your master done for you? You who've been teaching Torah and religion non-stop, the head of this, so your master is God. So does God help you? They're bringing you to a torturous death. So Rabbi Yossi said to his nephew, if this is what happens to those who have angered him in this world, who have done slight sins, that's what happens to them in this world. How much more so, those who fulfill his will get a great reward in the world to come. In other words, I have committed sins in my life also. And this is the punishment that comes to me for the sins I've done in this world. But whichever way I have fulfilled the commandments, I'm surely going to get a very big reward. The world I'm going to. That's what the saints, or nearly all the saints feel when they're put to great suffering. They think, well, this atones for the small sins, and I'll come into Olam Haba and have the greatest reward. So, he said, how much more so will those who brought anger to God They might get a little bit of reward in this world, like you're getting, riding on a horse, very nice, a little bit of reward. But if having gone against him in anger, you will surely get a most terrible Gehinnom. So these words went into the heart of Yakum, like poison goes into a person's veins, poison of a snake. At that moment he regretted all his sins, all the sins ever done. So what did he do? He fulfilled upon himself in a terrible manner, as described there, that he fulfilled all the 4 types of death penalty. Skile, put stones on his body, and then he strangled himself almost. He put fiery lead down his throat. He brought himself, because they were present there in that environment, all the forms of torture and killing that were available. So he made use of them to go and take away his life. So Rabbi Yosef ben Yezer, he was also being tortured, but he said, my nephew, he reached Gan Eden first. So what do you see from these 2 episodes, which are referred to as the Bogdim, the traitors? Even the traitors, people of Israel, but they have the ability, some of them, but they're put under pressure to become great tzaddikim. They were turned from a level of being the greatest of the Shoim to become the greatest tzaddikim. Yosef Meshita, the traitor, he was aroused by the words he heard from those who hated him. And Yakum Ish Zerurot also, the quiet words changed him. The great Tana of Yosef ben Yezer. And a moment before he'd been mocking him. But in the end, he changed. Because he went right to the roots of his soul, which is deep down inside. So Rav Dessler takes out the following lesson from here. From here we have to take out the lesson. HaKadosh Baruch Hu has given our generation enormous destruction, terrible destructions from previous generation on account of our many sins and the desolation of Torah. And it seems that the level of the people of Israel, for most of us, is going further and further down. So certainly we live in the period of the epoch of the Mashiach. But we should take the conclusions from the truth that we understand deep in our hearts and not go astray neither to the right nor to the left. So this I want to continue a little bit with another essay, which really continuation of this and applies even more to our situation today. These traitors were Jews who had gone against the people of Israel in a terrible manner. But when they heard words of truth, and they recognized this was the truth, each one did teshuvah from one extreme to the other. They show great Mesirut Nefesh. This is like the odor of the field which Hashem has blessed, Gan Eden. Gan Eden is the quality of ultimate truth, the quality of Yaakov Avinu, and also the quality of Adam before the sin. The sages say the beauty of Yaakov is like the beauty of Adam in Gan Eden. And the garments are Bakadim Achamudot, the garments of Adam and Eve. And that is why they had this odor. So, what does this refer to? It is teaches us that every Jew has a spark of inner truth in his heart, but needs a lot of work to bring that truth out into the open. The heart of a person is like a field. A field, if it's just left to itself, will be covered with weeds. But by working on the field and plowing it, it brings out its produce. So these are the words of the Zohar. That a person who works upon himself, it's like a person working on the field of his life. And it says, a king, he reaches a high level if human beings work on the field that they've been given. Melach l'sadeh nevad. A person who works on the field of his life and plows it deeply, he'll reach an awareness of the presence of Hashem. So we can apply this to the present situation, because we know there are, unfortunately, to bring the people of Israel to the highest level, the Jews who still remain from the millions throughout the generations who have entirely become drowned amongst the nations of the world. Many of them become annihilated. So many of them have lost their contact, have joined the ranks not only of being assimilated, intermarried, but some of them to become the enemies of the Jewish people. And we sometimes wonder today why there's so many Jews who support the boycott against Israel, and even some members of the American Congress and representatives in parliaments of the world. They may be Jews by birth, but they're against Israel, and they joined even our enemies in different ways. Also some Jews who make out that they're still, as it were, on the outside. They put on a garment as though they are religious Jews, but they join in with the enemies to go and kill Jews. They dance together with people from Hamas. So we're plagued with Jews of that nature, who are really traitors to the people and traitors to the Torah. And that's one of the situations of the darkness of this generation, because Hashem, He has promised that He's going to bring redemption to the world through the people of Israel. So you expect the people of Israel to reach a high level. And if we really go to the root of the problem, it's that even amongst those Jews who have some knowledge of Torah, but they're not willing to use all their strength to help those Jews who have become lost and assimilated. And that's surely what Hashem expects today. Every Jew should know he himself has got to work, that he should be able to fulfill all the mitzvot of the Torah, and especially the mitzvot between man and man, and that he has to be a source of Kiddush Hashem, of sanctifying the name of Hashem in life, by also doing loving kindness and outreach to all those who are drowning, because underneath, all Jews have this streak of ultimate truth. We've just got to uncover it. And we see today that there's only very few where people have used every possible means to uncover the point of truth in the soul of every Jew, this connection with Hashem, that they failed. Hashem gives help. So that's what we need in our time, to, especially in this period, when we have so many enemies from amongst the nations of the world who want to annihilate us, and also so much materialistic culture that is destroying the character of so many Jews. So we have to work very hard to introduce the power that lies deep down inside, so that the light of Hashem, the Aleph, can enter into the Golut and bring back people of Israel. And this is especially clear, the way in which the Chumash, in the last chapters, describes what will happen at the end of days. Because it says, after all the curses that might become fulfilled, and we know that have been fulfilled in Parashat Ki Tavo, then it's followed by Nitzavim with the Parashat of Teshuvah, where Hashem says, if Am Yisrael will do Teshuvah, then he'll bring the redemption. Then the other nations will recognize the truth of the Torah which was shown to Avraham Avinu, to Yaakov Avinu, to the people of Israel.